We're going to talk today about the first assignment, which is our personal narrative. We've read many, many of them, and now you get to write your own. So this is the way all of my prompts will look. They'll have different sections just to kind of give you an overall before you get to the task, which is down here. This is the focus. So for this unit, much of our work for this assignment has involved pre-writing. We've completed exercises, readings, the letter to author, and the summary. We've also discussed the importance of drafting, close reading, writing as a process, structure, audience, show, don't tell, details, change, beginning, middle, and end. So that's just kind of the overall. Here are the texts that we looked at primarily in case you need them for the authors or anything like that. The topic here is here are the things that you want to kind of utilize when you're getting ready to write these. So number one, the components. Backstory is, for example, in Classroom and the Wider Culture, it's when he told us about what it was like growing up in China. Or in Teacher Who Changed My Life, he talked about what it was like for him in Greece and when his mother was killed and he came to America, that kind of thing. And then you've got your thesis. Every single one of the ones we read has a thesis, and you want to have a thesis in yours as well. You want it to have a main point. What are you trying to get across here? You want to have a problem. So all of them were overcoming a problem. In Classroom in the Wider Culture, remember he had the problem of trying to reconcile his Chinese identity with his English identity. In Teacher Who Changed My Life, he had many, many difficulties, and his main problem was, he lost his family, came to America, he didn't speak English, all of that kind of thing. So many problems to overcome. Progression is the middle part of the section, so that's where you learn things. So this is where you are kind of gaining traction a little bit. So in Classroom in the Wider Culture, he starts to learn that writing in English is something that you can express yourself, the I, in as something glorious rather than something to be ashamed about, and that kind of thing. So he's learning that as he goes, but it's a process. There's always conflicts, so things that make it difficult for Teacher Who Changed My Life. Like I said, he didn't speak English. He was put in the wrong class. He resented his father. His mother was killed. He came to a new country. Many things, many sources of conflict there. And then the resolution is the success at the end. So whatever, they resolve the problem and they have some sort of success or they learn something. Offering solutions is primarily probably in Classroom in the Wider Culture, where he tells teachers how to help fellow students like himself and even gives some ideas for possible assignments and stuff like that. Details, we talked about this primarily in Teacher Who Changed My Life. It's really important to use a lot of details and specifics in these. That's what makes these come alive. It's what makes them interesting. So for Miss Heard, he talks about how she was a formidable, solidly built woman with salt and pepper hair and all that kind of stuff. And all of those things make it a really engaging read. Like I said, the thesis should be your main point. Maybe it leads to a lesson the writer learned and wants to impart to the reader. In Shitty First Drafts, she learns that you can't just write one draft. You have to write several to get to a good one. In Classroom in the Wider Culture, he learns to reconcile his Chinese identity with his English identity. All those kind of things. So lesson there leads to an insight the writer hadn't seen before. That could be Who Shall I Be, where she learns that she doesn't have to change everything about herself, that she has the rest of her life to make those changes. The third one leads to an understanding of what really happened, maybe that day, that month, that year, that time period, whatever you want to write about. Okay, so here's your choices. You have many choices here, so pick whichever one you think is best, and you're going to write a 3 to 4 page personal narrative. Be very careful about plagiarism on this. If you get caught, you will get a 0, and it will ruin, you won't be able to pass the class. So make absolutely sure that you're not plagiarizing in any way. No sources. This is your story, but that makes it easy and it makes it fun, hopefully, too. You can write just all about you. Number 1, to what extent do you believe a teacher, relative, friend, coach, whoever you, just pick one of these, but whoever you want to talk about, the most influential person in your life. And then you want to talk about how they changed you and what this experience taught you. So prior to meeting the teacher, you were terrible in math. Now you love it and you learned that if you just work hard enough, you can get better in any subject. That's just an example. But you do want your thesis. You want to describe the relationship before meeting the person how they changed you, and then what kind of person you were after working with them. So that's what you're looking for there. Number 2, to what extent do you believe college offers a chance for personal growth and change? So here you want to describe what you were like in high school, explain specifically what made you want to change, and then how you will make the changes, and then what you hope to learn by making these changes. So you want to get kind of all those good details in there. Number 3, to what extent does culture, background, upbringing, environment affect the way a person approaches a new situation and a new culture? Just pick one of these again. This is just different ones. So it could be anything from transferring from a private to a public school, joining a sports team, learning another language, anything like that, any new situation. Describe the situation and how you felt. Describe how you changed to fit into the culture, and then explain basically how it changed your way of thinking or changed you as a person or that kind of thing. And number 4, changing a misconception about something due to your personal experience. In Lamott's essay, she challenges the reader's belief that writing is easy for professional writers, and she explains that it's actually hard for everybody. In A Marine at War, he talks about how the media is misrepresenting what it's like to be at war and that kind of thing. So first you want to explain the misconception, then say how your experience and perspective shows that misconception to be incorrect or misguided, and finally why changing this misconception will benefit the reader. So here's some examples of things I've had students write about in the past. The misconception that MMA isn't a real sport. This person explained how MMA fighters have to have black belts in several different types of martial arts and that kind of thing. One person wrote about how tattoos are only for gang members and convicts. It's just sort of this, there's the stigma around tattoos, but in fact they're really an art form. Here, being shy means being whatever. Sometimes shy people get sort of mislabeled, and this person wanted to explain what they're really like. So any misconception that you want to write about there. And it should be based on your own experience. So in A Marine at War, the reason that he was able to write about that is because he actually was at war. He was a Marine. So here's all your requirements. Each draft will be worth 50 points. You will do 2 drafts on this. So thanks, you guys, and good luck.